Okay, so the first thing that we need is to classify the relationship between the two angles. So if I'm looking at number 1, these are vertical angles. And what do we know about vertical angles? They're equal to each other. So then I need to write an equation. So 6x plus 8 equals 50. And then I solve it. So I subtract 8 from both sides. I get 6x equals 42, divide by 6, and x equals 7 degrees. Okay, this next one, right there, they're on opposite sides of the transversal. They're on the inside, so that means that these are alternate interior angles. So that means I take 6x plus 10, I set it equal to 70. I subtract 10 from both sides, I get 6x equals 60. I divide by 6, and I get x equals 10. Over here, they happen to be sitting next to each other. They're adjacent to each other. They make a line, so this is a linear pair. And all linear pairs are supplementary. So that means I'm going to take 13x minus 1 plus 12x plus 6, and I'm going to set that equal to 180. That's going to get me 25x plus 5 equals 180. Subtract. When I subtract that, I get 25x equals 175. Then I need to divide both sides by 25. X equals 7. Okay, these next two. One is exterior, one's interior. So it's not going to be alternate or same side, interior, exterior. So then that means that this one is in the top right. This one is also in the top right. So we have I don't know why I thought corresponding started with the S. Corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are equal to each other. So x plus 117 equals 110. I subtract 117 from both sides, and I get x equals negative 7 degrees. Okay, down here, they are on opposite sides of the transversal. They're both exterior angles, so this is alternate exterior angles. And that means that they're equal to each other. So 13x minus 7 equals 110. I add 7 to both sides. I get 13x equals 117. I divide by 13, and I get x equals 9. Next one. Those are vertical angles. They're right across from each other. They are vertical angles, and all vertical angles are congruent to each other. So 14x plus 6 equals 90 degrees. So I subtract 6 from both sides. I get 14x equals 84. I divide by 4 on both sides. I get x equals 6. Next one says classify the relationship between the two angles. Find the measure of the angle. We're not just finding the x value, we're now finding what the angle measure is. So these two angles right here, they sit right next to each other and they make a line. So they are a linear pair. So linear pairs are supplementary. So I take x plus 54. I add that to x plus 140, and that equals 180 degrees. So 2x plus 194 equals 180. I subtract 194. I get 2x equals negative 14. I divide by 2 and get x equals negative 7. But it's not asking for what x equals. It's asking for the bold. The bold angle is this one right here. So it's wanting me to take x plus 54 and find out how much that angle is. So I'm going to replace the x with negative 7. And that would get me, the angle measure is going to be 47 degrees. Okay, this one. These two are across from each other. That means these are vertical angles. And since they're vertical angles, they are equal to each other. So 12x minus 6 equals 10x plus 10. I subtract 10x from both sides. I get 2x minus 6 equals 10. I add 6 to both sides. 2x equals 16. Divide by 2 and get x equals 8. It wants the bold one. So I have 12x minus 6. So I'm going to replace the x with 8 minus 6. I get 96 minus 6, so that's 90 degrees. Okay. This angle right here is in the top left. This one's in the top left. That means these are corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are equal to each other. So I'm going to subtract 5x, subtract 5x. 10 equals 2x minus 6. Add 6. 16 is equal to 2x. I divide by 2. And I get 8 equals x. It wants the angle that is bold, and that's this one. So 5x plus 10. I'm going to replace the x with 8. Add 10, so that's 40 plus 10. So the answer is 50 degrees. Okay. These are both exterior angles, and they're on opposite sides. So that means these are alternate exterior angles. Alternate exterior angles are congruent to each other, or their measure is equal to each other. So I am going to set them equal and solve. So I subtract 7x from both sides. I get 11 equals x plus 4. I subtract 4 from both sides, and I get 7 is equal to x. It wants the bold angle, which is this one. So 7x plus 11, I'm going to replace the x with 7. So 49 plus 11 is going to get me 60 degrees. These two are right across from each other, kissing cousins. These are vertical angles. That means I set them equal to each other. And I solve that. So I subtract 4, and x equals 7. I want the highlighted one. So that's 18x plus 4. So I'm going to replace the x with 7. That's a weird looking parenthesis. So that's 56. So 126 plus 4. So 130 degrees. These are adjacent angles and they lie on a line, so these are a linear pair. So x plus 119 plus x plus 73 equals 180 degrees. So 2x plus 2, 9, 192 equals 180. So is that right? Yeah. So 2x equals negative 12. Divide by 2 and get x equals negative 6. X plus 73, so I'm going to replace the x with negative 6. And so that's going to get me 67 degrees.